Welcome back, everyone, to Spore War After the War. This is our weekly analysis and retrospective series on the Spore War Actual play that hopefully you've been watching this past week and are now joining us for After the War for a little deeper dive. This is our chance to celebrate things that we liked in the last episode, ask questions about things we want to learn more about, and maybe pull back the actual play curtain and reveal a little bit about actual play production along the way as well. My name is Jason Collins. I am a freelance comic book writer, award-winning actual play game master and producer, and occasionally do some freelance tabletop role-playing game design as well. You can find links to my work, my other actual plays I've been a part of, and my fantasy comic Thistle on my link tree at digital_Collins. And as the producer and editor of Spore War, it is my pleasure to introduce to you the Gamerunner for Spore War, Seneschal.
Hi, everyone.
Once again, I've lost count. I think this is going to be After the War, episode 9, but I can't be sure that the words in my mouth will match the title on the screen when we run this. But I only mention that because it is dangerously close to the end of the Book 1 series. Yes. And so we are counting down these scant few episodes remaining. We just had a quick discussion with our players at the end of this last Spore War episode that we just finished recording a few moments ago, talking about that upcoming conclusion, climax, and end to all things. And yeah, Book 1 is almost in the bag, so we could certainly talk about that for a couple of minutes. But I wanted to talk about real quick about something that I talked about with the players at the conclusion of the game, as I with a sort of a tone of incredulity in my voice, asked Sky the question, Sky, did you just have a potion of extra healing or potion of greater healing on your character, and you had 40 hit points, and you chose to do a full attack action for the full round? And their answer was yes. Yes, that's correct. Mm-hmm. And I think I had to step away from the headset for a moment, because when I came back, Varen was still standing, and when I came back, Varen was on the ground. and I remember the last thing I remember going, Varen attacked and didn't heal, and Varen had 40 hit points. Like, okay.
You know, it goes to this was not a tactically complicated fight. In contrast with the last one, and in contrast with the next one, this was straight up brute force. You have something that's you have several somethings that are trying to eat you. They're not tactically complicated. They're not intelligent. They're going to just keep eating until you're dead. And leaving yourself unhealed in that, I think that was an acknowledged miscalculation on their part.
Well, and I couldn't quite decide if Sky, the player, was suggesting that they took that as a tactical risk, or thought that maybe they were going to be able to drop the I apologize, the sin mold. I want to say sin mold, and I knew that wasn't right. Sin mold. Whether they thought they could drop the sin mold with that final flurry of attacks, I don't know why. But there was certainly no end to the threats. There was still some much larger looming threats nearby, certainly within reach. But just a classic and clear example of the conversations that you and I have been having over these last couple of After the Wars about player preparation and player foresight and player preservation, even, to make sure that they can stay standing and not end up dropping in the fight, and then they can't contribute. And yeah, JDR having to do tactical retreats, JDR's incredible speed being the only reason that JDR can still contribute to the fight and not have to stay within striking distance. And now Varen down, and suddenly, their number of to hit rolls in a round dropped dramatically.
If there hadn't been a slow on one of those spore infested T-Rexes, that could have been a TPK.
Yeah. I got a little worried. I got a little worried at the end. Yeah.
Because the limitation on its actions made a difference. and JDR being at 4 hit points and Vren being down and the Tiger familiar being down as well meant that they were down to 3.
Yeah. And we know Gwen wouldn't last more than a round with a couple of direct hits if it came to that.
Well, the ability to fly meant that they could just retreat up.
Yes. Yes, that's true.
Banda and Briala could have just gone up and watched their friends be digested and dissolved, but that would have been a different kind of campaign end in the sense that with 2 of the player characters irrevocably lost, 2 or more of them irrevocably lost, I don't know that the campaign would have carried on.
I know. Yeah. No, I agree with you there. Do you think was it? I don't want to say that they were being careless on purpose, but was it careless or was it just a lack of caution?
It was no, it was a combination of things, and one was I jammed 2 encounters together to deliberately make it difficult.
Yeah.
There was a lot for them to deal with in terms of incoming damage,
Yeah.
and it was harder to manage. But yeah, there were some suboptimal tactical choices in this fight, whereas usually they're pretty good and they're getting better. In this particular fight, yeah, there were some tactical errors for sure. They did not focus their fire. They did half of the hit points of one of the T-Rexes and then shifted to the other one.
Which was something that I was specifically going to hone in on. Just when you talk about the tactical, I was thinking about that in the moment during the encounter. I was thinking about it just now afterwards as we were prepping for after the war. That yeah, like again, once again, like just the not thinking about the fact that if they've already got a flanking position on the one sin mold, like just focus it, get it down, stay away from the T-Rexes or try and draw them away. But yeah, again, it was splitting the attention, and nearly cost them.
Yeah, there are a lot of things they could have done. They could have used the Tiger to block and distract the T-Rexes while they dealt with the Sin Molds, one and then the other.
Yeah.
But they split the party early, and they had 3 targets at half hit points before they knocked one of them down.
Yeah. Well, some great examples for game masters to study and follow, and to understand how those TPKs come about, or how 1 or 2 characters can suddenly drop just due to some missed opportunities. So it'll be fascinating to study and look back on, and I'll be very keen to hear and see their sort of remembering of that fight when they finally get around to watching it themselves. And just to see what their takeaways of that are, or if it's something that informs their choices in the future.
Yeah. So yeah, between the not using their healing resources, not coordinating their own activities amongst themselves, not coordinating which targets they were going to knock down, not using their NPC resources to effectively contain or manage the battlefield, there were mistakes made.
So a challenging encounter, which you sort of tweaked to mold or merge 2 difficult encounters into one very, very challenging and dangerous encounter, both for the expediency of the actual play, sort of just production time and run time, but also just making a much more challenging encounter for some very competent and capable player characters. And you know, once again, even in this episode, Gwen as Briala just dealing out some tremendous amounts of damage, but finally up against creatures that can absorb those punishing hits and not just be immediately removed from the board, and you still have to contend with them. And so even Briala's most powerful magic, not enough to just win the day with a single spell.
Correct.
And so yeah, really reminding them of that. And that, I guess I was expecting that for that to be the catalyst, and for them to go, okay, teamwork is the key here. It's not just overwhelming force and a lucky shot. We've got to use teamwork, and they had moments of it, but it wasn't consistent and continuous. And I was just really surprised. I guess I was expecting them to key in on that much sooner.
Yep, that's all right. We all have good days and bad days. I made a mistake. I made probably more than one mistake, but I had that Pathfinder 1E brain on because I switched back and forth between systems. Forgetting charges in the thing, looked it up. Someone looked it up and confirmed that it was a thing when it wasn't. The flanking would have made the same bonus, so it didn't really end up mattering. I don't think.
Yeah. But like you
But
say, yeah, burning time on parts of the encounter
excuse me.
that yeah won't impact it in the end for sure.
Yeah.
Making a big mess of the city of Green Gold and their home base and their sort of their community essentially, right? That they've come to become a part of and to become known of, and not even the heroes of Green Gold can stop this type of devastation from impacting the city when it happens all at once, all over.
Correct.
With potentially one episode remaining in the book one of the Spore War actual play, and having warned them, Gamerunner to player that the final encounter is coming and it will be challenging, and that they have mechanically they have time to rest and to recover, even though time is of the essence and there's a lot of they can't wait too long to stop the spread of the sort of the explosion of spore and mushrooms that are now consuming the city. But mechanically, they've got enough time to rest, to replenish spells, to quickly replenish supplies within a reasonable amount of time, but also to replenish their tactics and that'll be something to see if they come back at that one more time for that type of conversation. Is that going to be something that you'll remind them of prior to the next session? Will you remind them of it at the start of the next session, or will you let the dice roll where they may and see what comes of it?
There is for me, I think there is not going to be any reminders coming.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have to figure out for themselves, because you can't, they don't need the hand-holding.
No.
They're competent players.
Yep.
And, we've done what we can between you and I to caution them and give them reminders along the way. I think the only reminder is really, this is the exciting conclusion of book one.
Yeah.
And they've been told there's going to be a confrontation. They're not going to be surprised.
No.
I do not think this is going to be easy.
Yeah.
How can I foreshadow the next fight? I'm looking at one of the character sheets right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I actually think that I'm going to make it harder than it is in the book.
Sure.
I think they can handle it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a challenge. And it'll be fun. But no, I'm not going to give them any forewarning beyond this is the conclusion. And they realize that.
No, and I agree with you. There's been plenty of discussion both out of game and in game to remind them of that. And but I just see those same sort of I don't want to call them rookie mistakes, but just enthusiastic player mistakes where they're enjoying the moment, but not necessarily honing in on the maybe the danger that's happening until suddenly those big dice rolls land and then suddenly their hit points get depleted by a lot. And just I was surprised that I didn't see them act with a bit more urgency to protect everybody.
I think they'll wake up when the opening round is them experiencing chain lightning from the other side.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, fair enough. So for this episode, and the last thing I'll just say, just as a pure fun gamer thing, it is so rare unless you're really adventuring in like a jungly environment to have something like a Tyrannosaurus Rex in your fantasy game, because most of the times it's kind of fish out of water and an odd addition to a whether a classic Western fantasy realm or even something with a bit more of a cultural bent to it. But unless you're in like the steaming jungle environment with lots of big dinosaur-like creatures or giant lizards and so forth, it was just really fun to get to see a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and in this case, two Tyrannosaurus Rex stomping around on the map and just bearing those big fanged maws and just chewing up the scenery literally. I just enjoyed that because it's not something you get to see very often in a game.
Thank you for saying that because I'm going to give the counterpoint, which is I hate dinosaurs in a fantasy setting. I put it in there because they're written in there, but not my thing at all. And I think I undersold them because of that.
Yeah,
Honestly,
I think
looking,
I think you did too. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. I think you did because I think that they were scared of it as a player
yeah,
in terms of hit points and maybe just knowing in their
yeah.
head there'd be some raw damage. But I would have played up that horror
Yeah,
factor.
I made some misjudgments there. Part of it is you get focused on other things you're having to think about. Sometimes it doesn't go off the way that you should. But yeah, I should have subbed them out because frankly, I not everything has to be in every game in my view. And
Sure.
dinosaurs are. I'm gonna watch Jurassic World and suffer through that movie if I really want to see a T-Rex. It's not my thing for a fantasy realm.
I can understand that, but that to my point, that was why I liked it because it was a one-off moment, a stand-up moment. It makes sense that a corrupted, spore-infested
Yes,
Tyrannosaurus
yeah.
Rex pulled from some other part of the realm and the
From the
tangled.
Wongi Expanse, I believe.
Right, exactly, and just transported here through the power of spores and magic and corruption and all those wonderful things. It doesn't need to make sense, and it was good because it was very much this was not what we were expecting to see here
Yeah,
after some of the other stuff some of the other stuff that we've seen. But yeah, I just that the you needed that the water in the glass, tremoring and the and
yeah,
the
yeah,
and the, and
yeah,
the pebbles on the ground vibrating just to kind of set up that something big is coming moment, right?
yeah.
And again, busy combat, lots going on, very challenging. The players were in a little bit of danger, so you're not focused on the ambience and the theater of it. You're focused on mechanically
But I should have. I
rambling
should
around.
have been.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
should
yeah.
have been.
So that's okay. So that was just my observation behind the scenes, getting just to soak it up with none of the risk of making my own dice rolls, and it was just a novelty to get to see a T-Rex on the screen. So
Yeah, still
so
fun.
so for you, what was your takeaway for tonight, and or do you just want to sort of do more foreshadowing for the next one, the
My
last one?
takeaway for tonight was I think everyone's anticipating the next episode, and I think the players and myself were all distracted by what's coming next.
Mm-hmm.
And what's coming next is going to be a pretty intense session.
Mm-hmm. You made a point of reminding them that the goal to try to have enough time for both the immensity of the tactical encounter that will come at the climax of all good sort of published modules and adventures. There's always a big fight at the end of that for the most part, but you also want to have room for the role playing and the emotional piece. And I appreciated you saying that because I keyed in on that big time, because I feel like I've been needing that as an audience member just watching the show. It's been wonderful to celebrate and to enjoy the spectacle of the player characters unleashing all of their abilities and their crazy stunts and magic and ability and combat feats in the middle of the scenes. But now it's been a bit of a rush from scene to scene moment, and I've not had the connective tissue of them connecting with each other or having those moments with each other to reflect on the fact, like again, Varen almost died, JDR almost died. That's something that I want them to. I would like to see the emotional impact of that, and have them reflect a little bit on the fact that these other people around me are important to me as a player character, are important to me, and I want to. I want to. Yeah, I don't want to see them fall so early into their journey.
Yeah. Um, I I so much agree that I am actually dramatically reconstructing the final encounter.
Okay.
I want it to be a real set piece.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we'll see if I accomplish that between now and next week.
This is great because what you're doing is you're setting a goal for yourself as an actual play game runner, and actually you see, okay, there's there's the novelty of running through the adventure path and to point to this and say, here's book one of Spore War, and it's a brand new, recently published adventure path series from Paizo, and so this is just a great way for us to here was our take on it. Here's how we ran Spore War, and see if it's enjoyable for a bunch of gamers to watch. But it's another to set that goal as a game runner to say, I want this to have impact on the players. Don't focus on the audience because the audience will connect with what they connect with.
Yes.
But you want to find the ways, and this was something that I learned how to try and do a little bit better each iteration of doing my previous series. was to try and find those emotional gut punch moments. And I don't know if you're going for that specifically, but that was what I started to set as a goal for myself. Say, okay, it's fun, it's exciting. Okay, yeah, they had a holy shit moment, or they had a gasp moment, and those were really great. That's great. I want the gut punch. I want them all to be, and I was able to accomplish that a couple of times, where the players were really left emotionally impacted by the scene that they're or the end of the scene or the end of the episode that we would do. I was really proud of those moments, and it was something that wasn't immediately evident to me on how to do that well. It took a bit of practice and time, and sometimes you try it once and you think, oh, I should, like you say, I should have done that differently. I should have paused. I should have had a dramatic moment here or a dramatic effect here, but that's okay. You learn each time as you go, and if you're improving, suddenly you get to see the writing on the wall when it's coming. You're like, okay, this is where this moment can have impact. If I slow down just a moment and lean into the emotions of this, or tug on some heartstrings of the particular characters that I know would be impacted by this, the players will often pick that thread up and tug on it for you and deliver the scene you're looking for.
Yeah. This After the War won't be put up until after we filmed next week, right?
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit. If we're gonna do some behind the scenes work,
sure.
Our players will see afterwards.
Yeah.
Let's workshop this for a minute. It doesn't have to be a long time.
No, that's great.
So the what's the name of the NPC? It's the I said it on there, but the page 90. Page 90. That's not the right document. I'm gonna make you edit this one too.
No edits.
Look stuff up.
Just raw, dead air.
Okay, found it. Lucaraziel, the demonic cultivator of Tanglebriar.
Right.
Challenging character. CR14, spellcaster. Abracandilu demon, with some modifications. Absolutely atrocious. Casts high-level spells, 7th level spells.
Yep.
Including some innate spells and some arcane spells, including Cursed Metamorphosis. Just some really neat abilities. But I think the way they have them structured in the encounter, there's 2 sin molds and then the caster, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely a situation where you need to do the Mage Blitz, which is head for the caster, because high-level casters are dangerous.
Yeah.
And so I'm assuming they will do that. And I'm also thinking that the encounter itself is not enough, both in terms of impact and in terms of challenge.
Okay.
So they're going to have a chance to rest.
Okay.
They should be at full. One of the Barons escaped, as I recall. I'll double check from the Prelude Adventures, but
right.
One of them did escape. One of them did not stick around.
Is that the one that left before the fight began?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't remember his name, but I remember that.
Seneschal was the one who died, and I can't remember the name of the other one, but
yeah.
They were all invested in this process. So I'm going to have him there.
Yeah.
So that there are 2 casters.
Yeah. Excellent.
And then I don't think we need to put more sin molds in front of them. They fought sin molds.
They soak up a lot of hits and take a lot of damage to get just to burn them down, and they've got some immunities. They'll know what is the most effective sort of spells to use on them or tactics for that. But a couple of bad grapple rolls and suddenly somebody's sucked into one, and it's gonna.
I think we keep one.
It'll eat up valuable combat time if they get tangled up with it for too long. So.
But I think we keep one because that's important. And then there are a bunch of other creatures in the encounters we skipped over, including Eshmox and those Hell Wasps and Tanglebriar Iskulugs. They're all horrible to pronounce. Some of them have regeneration, and so I could put an assortment of those kinds of nasties in the foreground.
You could also have things like the wasps on the walls and things around, and it doesn't mean you have to use them all in the encounter. If they're chewing through it quickly, then you can throw some wasps in their way. You can throw some of the other stuff as a bit of a distraction or deterrent. But you can have the threat of them there, but they might just be buzzing around in the air and making them think that they have to be aware of it, but they may not get involved if the sin mold and a couple of well placed early spells are enough to kind of challenge them or keep them at bay for a round or two. Or they're already soaking up damage from the casters, but it's that environmental threat of that there's more here, but they're not immediately joining the fray because they don't want to get caught in the fire and lightning getting thrown back and forth. They might have just enough instinct to want to stay out of the way of that type of elemental magic going back and forth.
Yeah, agreed.
So when you're talking about this, and we're talking about workshopping this now, there's a couple things. There's the emotional impact and the sort of emotional beats you're going for, but then there's also the tactical thing. And so let's talk about tactical mechanical things first, and then we'll jump into my meat and potatoes, which is the emotional beats. So you've got the environment itself, movement limitations for someone like J. Dior, who could easily cross the distance probably to the caster, unless there's another barrier type spell or something happening. They can semi-fly and or teleport now, depending on which character it is and what they're doing. So things like the Sin Mold may not be able to be an obstacle for them unless there's a requirement that they have to get past it first before they can enter the final chamber or do something else in terms of this, or the Sin Mold will be chasing them.
I'm going to be doing it with one encounter.
Okay.
Although perhaps a running one.
Okay. So I think about like just whatever they've set the final set piece in, are there big drops? Is there like, a chasm into a dark pit type thing? Does the ceiling go up really high and extend into darkness and wasps are flying up above and disappearing? But that means there's plenty of room for people who can fly or do things, but there's room for the wizards themselves, like the enemy wizards, to move around and evade and get away from somebody like JDR unless he's flying as well. So I think about those types of things where you don't want to pin the wizards down where they get caught in a corner and there's no escape and they can just get pummeled round after round in terms of the melee combat. Because Toad and JDR will deal out just gross amounts of raw damage if they're able to, right? So just the environment set piece is something that I think about there in terms of limiting movement. And then, of course, do you want to limit Briala's ability to teleport in or out or to move things around quickly that way? And then, of course, Banda is very effective with ranged. Briala is very effective with ranged, and so is there any obscuring mists, fog, steam, whatever's underground, spores in the air from the mushrooms, occasionally just poofing out spores that could provide, soft cover or something in terms of just mechanically making some of the rolls a little bit more challenging that way as well. So I think about those kinds of things that just remind you that you're in this giant corrupted space and the air itself is fighting against you.
Yes. An air thick with spores, I love that.
So all of those
obscures vision and breathing.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I am completely redoing the map. It's an underground spore cavern.
Sure.
It's endlessly as I wish it to be. There's no reason for the big bad Lucasaril to be sitting on the floor where he can be reached by running.
No, exactly right. The other
make them work for it.
No, the other fellow who was sitting in his throne, but he had the vines or the appendixes or whatever that attached to him, right? The tendrils attached to him. He could do something similar to that, where the tendrils are attached to him and lift him up off the ground and mimic a fly spell where it moves him around in the room or something to begin with, just to give it a bit of a thematic spin on it that way too, to show that he's not easily reached. I also think about, could he like disappear into the wall of just corrupted spore muck and then reappear at another point in space, kind of mimicking like a teleport or a misty step or something to that effect in terms of being able to move around the room a little bit. Doesn't mean that even if mechanically that's not actually an ability that he has, you could play with that once or twice at the early parts of the encounter, just to reposition him in a way that catches them off guard a little bit as well.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I like the idea of having the Baron actually flying with the fly spell and then something different for Lucas Earl.
Yeah, exactly right. So then there's the let's talk about the uninterruptible monologue for a moment.
Yes.
So what is the motivation Lucrazerol, or if I'm pronouncing that correctly, does he do any sort of monologue with the player
He does.
characters?
Yeah, there is a monologue given to him. It's pretty um it's pretty basic.
Yeah, yeah. Which
Without criticizing the writers, he doesn't have a lot to say.
no, it's the enemy monologue 101 type thing, right? Where he just kind of spews out his mission statement, and then you get to business of beating the hell out of each other. What I would encourage you to think about doing, and I can certainly help you write some of this if you want me to, is to think about him attacking the very heart of Kionan as a culture. Why the beautifully curated gardens that elves have crafted, and they're tending to the forest for millennia isn't the way to go, and our way is better, and here's why. And have him point out maybe some hypocrisies, maybe have him point out what plant life the elves kill off or destroy to preserve the plant life that they want, and he could see that as an affront to, you're not allowing life to just grow naturally. The elves claim to be about natural beauty, yet at every turn they're trimming and pruning away some of the most beautiful parts of our world, all for the sake of their aesthetics and their sensitive eyes and their sensitive lungs. That I would have those types of things in there, where, like, to try and challenge the idea that all the bad guys always believe they're the hero of their own story, right? And so there's some motivation there in terms of why he's doing what he's doing, and what the benefit is, and they will know what the benefit is. They know, they've seen the corrupted humans and the corrupted elves that had the spores all over them previously, that were sort of taken over by this corruption. They know there's no happy ending for anybody that gets sucked into this. But in his mind, he's like, here's the peace I give them. Here's the way they join with the world, with the natural world, in a way that elves have never been able to before. And so I would kind of play with those kinds of themes a little bit, right? Like, the players,
That's really good.
The players will see through it, but they'll at the same time they'll have to understand that there's a reason to this, right? And he's trying to call out some of the hypocrisy of the elves and their way they tend to their kingdom.
Yeah, the elves don't let themselves be infested by nature.
No,
invested, perhaps you should say.
Yeah. They live amongst it, and perhaps druids to a degree live with it. But there's different types of natural beauty in the Elven Kingdom, right?
Yeah.
And trimmed hedges and manicured gardens surrounding a fountain are not the same thing.
Yeah, as written, it's Tree Raiser I will murder you to feed the spores. Like, literally, he says that.
Yeah. But I think it can be more nuanced than that, and I think it could
I think so too.
Yeah.
And my thought was, I like your idea very much. The idea of we thrive with nature infusing us.
Yeah. And then, because I'm the Star Wars geek and I love the light side, dark side dichotomy and the seduction of the dark side and so forth, the idea of, does he try and tempt them? And it would seem incredulous that any of them would possibly be tempted by anything that he has to offer. But thinking to these player characters now and what they've been through and what they're pursuing still, is there anything he can offer them that they don't already have that is meaningful enough that they would go, he could actually do that for me, even though I know it would cost endless lives, and it was not a cost I would ever willingly pay. But I was trying to think, it may not be something for all of them, but is there any of them there that he can offer something to?
I've already planted the seed, and Varenne ate the mushroom. Okay. So how I'm actually going to play this out, basically he needs to derive some benefit from that telepathic link that also is a weakness.
Mm-hmm.
And
can you can you do anything with Varen, the character, who never looks anybody in the eye because he's always staring at their shadow? Is there anything that the spores can do that would change or improve Varen's state as a shadow elf, or to break it down to a more base description, where he's sort of trapped between the material world and the shadow world, and he's kind of always focused on the shadows and never really focused on the people in front of them. Would the infection of the spores change Varen in a way differently, where he would be able to see the world in a new way?
I love the idea of actually having his shadows strengthened and turned against him,
You're right.
telepathically controlled.
Right.
So if he survives it, then there's some enhancement to what his shadows can do, including giving them permanent telepathic bond if they touch someone.
Mm-hmm.
I like that idea.
And you could even play with, what if his shadows gain personality? And sometimes they listen to him and sometimes they don't. Or sometimes they at least have an opinion that differs from his. Because maybe a tiny piece, whether it's a tiny piece of Tree Razor, a tiny piece of Lucasia, or somebody is just always now in the shadows following him around.
Well, and the idea that they can touch someone else's shadow
Mm-hmm.
and give him a telepathic link that way in
Mm-hmm.
perpetuity.
And does that, because I don't see Varen as a character having a lot of intimacy in his life right now. Would that give him a way to have better intimacy with people if there was a connection through the shadows that wasn't there before?
Right.
So those are things I start to swirl around as well, right? The temptation for Brialla, I think about just in terms of raw power, if the enemy can use magic in a way that is both similar to Brialla but different, maybe more potent, maybe both more dangerous, but also sort of keying or toying with Brialla that you're still relying on books and you don't need the books anymore. The world around us is your book. Everything you need to learn is right here. So, again, it's not maybe a very compelling argument, but I would at least play up that difference of opinion in terms of where magic could come from and what they could do with it, what they could accomplish with that magic.
I think we need to pick one though, because we only have one session.
100%. So that's,
and I really love the idea. Since Varen ate the mushroom, we're gonna pick on Varen.
It's probably right there, absolutely, because I don't know that there's much you can do with Banda or JD in terms of that. Toad, we know as a redemption paladin is not he's not going to bite. He's not.
Would you like to? No. Yeah, he's not going to bite at all.
But now the other thing you can do with Varen, so now we're going to hone back on Varen, is there's the temptation for Varen in terms of what can be offered to Varen in terms of, having a different type of intimacy in their life, being able to see the world through their shadows in a different way through telepathy and other ways that way. But then there's also join with me or I kill the dwarf. If Toad gets in a bad state and gets run down, if Banda gets in a bad state and gets run down, if one of them gets caught and is in the danger zone, he's got the room at his disposal. A couple of wasps pick up their limp body with 20 hit points left and dangle them up over a big drop somewhere, and you can just sort of say, they can leave and you can stay.
Mm-hmm. So
just that you just have to read the room as the encounter goes on, and if it starts to turn against the PCs, if the next round or two would immediately result in a player character death or risk of a TPK, you don't have to necessarily go down that dark path. You can simply have him pull back and say, see, it's going to cost you everything and gain you nothing. I'm offering you something in return, and all it costs is to leave them behind and come with me.
Yes, I like that. I mean, it's horrible.
And that's the join me and together, only together can we defeat the Emperor, right? Like that's only together can we usurp Tree Razor's ludicrous schemes and instead make.
I love the idea that you've introduced, that this particular servant of Tree Razor completely misinterprets Tree Razor's motivations and sees it as he's been duped completely and thinks this is joining with nature truly.
And Tree Razor as a demon as well, and a corrupting demon and stuff, right? Like, just completely understands. You just play to the weaknesses and the vanities of your subjects, and just make them believe that they're the most important person in the room.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and in this case,
beautiful and horrible.
You want to play a little bit to their vanities, and I feel like Sky as a player would grab that thread and tug on it for you.
Yep, I think so.
There you go.
Thank you for your for the workshop. I think you contributed a great deal that I'm going to stew on.
That's perfect. That was my goal. Just you planted the seed for Ver, and I'm planting the seed for you. So there we go.
Bastard.
It's good.
I mean, you were being really mean to them making these suggestions, just to be clear.
Absolutely. As they eventually catch up with us and watch these after the war sessions, then yeah, they can see the scheming that has been going on behind the scenes this entire time.
Exactly. Oh, that's fun.
Excellent. All right, final thoughts for this episode of Spore War, or just final predictions for the last climactic episode to come?
So I have to tie back a lot of other things next session during the role-playing portion. And one of them that I plan to play with and revisit is Banda and the Queen.
I was about to say, where's my romantic entanglement? Yeah. Yep.
So,
yep. Absolutely. Do you need to have a private one-on-one with Lex to position that, just to make sure that Lex is comfortable with that in terms of if you bring that as a scene? I can't remember, because we've had so many episodes running one into another. I can't remember if Lex the player was enjoying the little bit of the flirting or the innuendo, the thought of the innuendo, or if it was much more like Toad and Briella egging that on, and Lex just kind of passively observing it as it happened.
Oh, that's a great question. My recollection is that Lex was all in on it.
Okay, and I hope you're right.
I can review the video and gauge it again.
Go back and review it. I think just to fast forward to watch that scene. And then I would encourage you, just as a courtesy to Lex, just to kind of do a follow-up and say, I've done some foreshadowing in some of the cutaway scenes about the Queen's, being a bit fraught at the thought of not just what the fate of Green Gold, but now that she's met the heroes of Green Gold, the fate of you as well. And if you had an encounter with the Queen, are you comfortable if I lean into that a little bit? And then if Lex says, yeah, by all means, go ahead, that's great. And then there's then you don't sort of burn a bunch of screen time on a scene that Lex as a player isn't interested in.
See, my problem with that is I think the impact on Banda and Lex is minimized compared to not expecting it.
No, and I 100% agree with you. But that's why I was just asking you if you remember where Lex
I'm gonna go back and look at it.
Okay.
But my view is that I'll be guided in the moment.
Yep.
If it's going the wrong way, or if it's not being received well.
And one of the things about After the War is that we talk about our roles as game runners and game masters, our experience in these. We're both very fortunate that we've been able to play role playing games in the numbering in the decades at this point. The gray and the beard is authentic, as I've pointed out before, and so yeah, we have the ability to usually pick up on player cues pretty quickly, but that's just something that you just want to be conscious of.
Bulldoze right through no matter what.
Right, exactly. So, but it's that's what one of the things I've loved about this series of breakdowns that we've done is we get a chance to really talk about those types of moments and opportunities in a game. It's one thing around the home table where there's been an established relationship and a lot of trust. You've built up your trust and goodwill with the players over these many episodes of Spore War so far. So I agree with you. I think Lex will be just fine, but I think it's great to verbalize this. We just talked about workshopping the final scene. We're workshopping, interactions between game runners and players, especially in the actual play sphere where relationships are new, and it's important you just make sure that you're reading the room right.
I'm not going to turn it into a porno or fanfic.
No. And that's not what I'm suggesting. But
it is the Queen after all. She's going to be concerned about appearances to a certain extent.
I would also remind you to go back to Lex's ads, veils, and bans, because I can't remember what Lex answered to some of those questions. So that would be worth that. Okay, good. So that would just be worth going back to that as well.
Yeah.
Excellent. There you go. That's why you do your prep work with your player safety chats and your expectations before you even start the first episode, so you know exactly what the players are craving in the game. So
exactly.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. I'm glad we workshop too. That's great stuff for me to think about.
You're very welcome. It's my hope to make the final episode as exciting and impactful as it can. And yeah, I want the players to have some holy shit moments for you.
I'm gonna turn it into a 5 minute episode of what with one thing and another.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
guys save the world, and
That's exactly right. Exactly. Let's roll for magic items.
yeah, exactly. Wandering treasure.
That's right. All right, that brings us to a close to this. I think the second to last Spore War After the War for Book 1. We really appreciate you taking time with this series, and we will be here at least one more time to do a wrap-up of the first book of Spore War, and we talk about using these sessions to celebrate what we liked. There's going to be a lot of things that we like to celebrate. Maybe we'll even bring a few people in with us to celebrate with us for next week as well. One more time. Fun. Yeah. One more time, my name is Jason Collins. I am a freelance comic book writer, award-winning actual play game master and producer, freelance tabletop role-playing game designer. You can find links to my work, the other actual plays I've been a part of, and my fantasy comic thistle on my link tree at digital_Collins.
And I'm Matt Fisher, Seneschal, and thanks for watching. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.